Om Sahana Bhavatu Sahano Bhunaktu Sahaviryam Karavavahai Tejasvina Vadhitamastu ma Vidvishavahai. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Om Purnamada Purnamidam Purnat Purnamudachyate Purnasya Purnamada Yapurnameva Vashishyate. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Shruti Smriti Purananam Alayam Karunalayam Namami Bhagavat Padam Shankaram Loka Shankaram Shankaram Shankaracharyam Keshavam Badarayanam Sutra Bhashya Krutau Vande Bhagavantau Punah Punah Ishvaro Gururatmedi Murti Bheda Vibhagine Vyomavat Vyapta Dehaya Dakshina Murtaye Namaha. Manasantu kim margane krute Naiva manasam marga arjavat. Vrittayastvaham vrittimashrita Vrittayo mano vidyaham manaha. So now this Vedantic method of investigating, inquiring, deliberating upon the nature of reality, the teacher says start with the mind. Manasanta kim. Mind also includes the world, by the way, because the world is not separate from the mind. What is world? The various objects, names and forms, sentient, insentient, that makes up the world. How do I know a pot, a flower, an ornament, a human being? How do I know when a corresponding thought takes place in my mind? We discussed that. My mind goes out through the corresponding organ of perception, contacts the object, the form of that thought takes place. That's how perception takes place. So perception takes place, knowledge takes place, experience takes place only when the mind assumes the form of that corresponding object. As I said, if the mind is distracted, then the object could be in front of me. If the object thought does not take place, no cognition takes place. So what do I know? I know my thoughts, and thoughts correspond to the objects. So object is included in the thought. Therefore, the world is not apart from the mind. You follow? World means various names and forms. And they become known to me only when my mind assumes those forms or perceives them. So when you ask what is mind, thoughts, the thoughts also include corresponding objects, because without objects thought cannot take place. So thus we are inquiring, what is it that we are confronting, experiencing? So what is the world? The mind. What is mind? Thoughts. What are the thoughts? Two categories: thought, aham vritti, and rest of the vritti. The subject thought, rest of the thoughts. What is the relationship between them? That the aham vritti, the subject thought, is independent, whereas the other thoughts are dependent upon the subject thought or the I thought. Because other thoughts cannot take place unless I thought is there first. They said, when I wake up, then the first thought that takes place is I thought, and then the rest of the thoughts take place. The I thought can be there even when other thoughts are not, whereas other thoughts cannot be there unless I thought is there. Therefore, other thoughts are dependent upon the I thought. So, vrittayastu aham vrittimashritaha, all the other thoughts are ashritaha, dependent upon the I thought. Therefore, if thoughts is mind, those thoughts are of two categories, subject and object. Objects, thoughts depend upon the subject thought. So ultimately what is mind? The I thought. Vidya viddhi aham manaha. So Ramana Maharshi says, Viddhi, may you know, manaha aham. What is mind is nothing but the I thought. I thought also varies, but it persists. Then we go further. Go to the next verse, verse 19. Ahamayam kuto bhavati chinvatah aipatatyaham nija vicharanam. Nija vicharanam. Vicharanam, the vichara. Vichara, the inquiry, the deliberation. Nija means my own. Nija. Nija vicharanam. This is the vichara, the inquiry, the deliberation upon nija or I. This is the deliberation upon what is I thought. Because the mind is thought, thought says I thought, so the next is what is I thought? What is the nature of I thought? How do you determine something nature of something? What is this part? You ask? Then, yes. But how do you say it is clay? Because the part emerges from clay, it is sustained by clay, it merges back into clay. Isn't that right? Clay is the upadana karanam, material cause, and pot is the karyam, the effect. Pot emerges from clay, is sustained by clay, and when the pot breaks, it merges back into clay. In all these states of creation, sustenance and dissolution, this pot is never apart from clay. Therefore we say, what is pot? Nothing but clay. Similarly also, aham, I am, kuto bhavati. In order to determine what is the true nature of aham or ahankara, we ask, where does it emerge? Where does it emerge from? What sustains it? Where does it go back? Just as to know what the pot is, you ask a question, where did the pot emerge from? What sustains the pot? Where does the pot merge into? So also, to understand aham, we should inquire, ask, where does the aham vritti, I thought, where does it emerge from? Even when I thought is there, what sustains it? And where does the I thought merge back? So when you ask this question, where does the I thought emerge? That means that there is something more permanent than I thought also. of the various thoughts, we found out that I thought is permanent, other thoughts are impermanent. And there were thoughts are I thought. Then, is I thought a permanent entity? What is permanent is truth. Ahankara, the I notion, I thought. Is it true? If it is truth, it will be permanent. If it is truth, it will not change. That is called truth, isn't it? That does not change. When do you say that I am speaking truth? I say something to you, something else outside, Here I tell you who I am, and outside I say something else, and then the Swami is not telling truth. What I say here is what I say outside, elsewhere, today, tomorrow, all along, consistently, then alone it can be called truth. So even in our day-to-day life, we call it truth that does not change in time. Not today I say something, tomorrow something else. That won't be called truth. It does not change with place. Here I say something, elsewhere I say something else. It can't be truth. To you I say something, to somebody else I say something else. In conditions also changes, cannot be called truth. Even in our day-to-day life also. We call that truth, speaking truth. When at all the times, at all the places, and all conditions, I speak the same, it does not change, then we call it truth. So changeless is called truth. That which does not change with reference to time. In the past, present, future remains the same. Does not change with reference to place. Here, there, anywhere it is the same. Does not change with reference to situations, with you, with somebody else, and ever the same. Desha, Kala, Vastu, Pariched, Shunyam. That which is devoid of the limitation of time, place, and condition is called truth. Even in the day-to-day life, that alone we call truth. Although this is relative truth. In the Vyavahara, this is no absolute truth, but relative. But what is Satyam? Satyam is, truth is that which is consistently there in time, place, condition, which is not limited by time, place, condition, which does not change with time, does not change with place, does not change with condition, ever remains the same. The infallible. Can we say ahankara is true? The aham vritti, does it not keep on changing? Right now I am aham. Who am I? I am a speaker. Later I am a listener. Then I am an enjoyer. I am an eater, drinker, walker, talker. That I, even though it persists all right, but it constantly changes. Therefore, even the I thought also cannot be called truth. So we are inquiring into what is the truth of the mind. Truth of the world is mind. Truth of the mind are thoughts. Truth of the thoughts is I thought. But I thought, even though it is persistent, and still it also keeps on changing. Therefore, it must be all changes presuppose a changeless basis. Any movement presupposes a motionless basis. A train, a moving train is possible when we have motionless tracks. The water in the river can flow when we have non-flowing riverbed. A wheel which rotates can rotate when we have a central axis that doesn't rotate. So all change presupposes unchanging reference point. The traffic policeman all of a sudden pulls ahead of you and says, "Sir, you were driving at 85 miles an hour. This is a 65-mile zone." How did he know? So he had a point, and he had another point, So he noted when I was at this point and noted when I was at that point. And how many seconds I travelled that distance. From that you can calculate the speed at which my vehicle was driving, is it not so? When can he discover this? Then can he calculate when there is a reference point where it doesn't change? Must be a reference point. So we know the world is changing. We know the thoughts are changing. We know even aham vritti also is changing. All these changes presuppose change can only be felt in reference to change, that which does not change. In the olden days, as children were travelling in train, that was a mode of transportation. So you board a train and you are sitting, you take the window seat always. There are 3-4 tracks. So there are trains parked on different tracks. Your train is moving, sometimes the immediate train also starts moving. Both are moving. If both trains are moving, you cannot spot or note the movement of the train. Only when you are standing on a platform that is motionless, then only you can know the moving train. But if the train is moving, you are also moving, then you cannot spot the motion. Meaning that in order to know the motion, the motionless is required. In order to know the change, changeless is required. We all know the change. The ahankara also is changing. So ahankara cannot be truth. That it does not change is called truth. Aham ayam koto bhavati. This aham, where does it arise? What is aham? How does Vedanta explain aham? Meaning the ego, the I thought, or they call it I notion. Why notion? Because it's not real I. It is only posing as I. It's called imposter. Which Swami used to use the word imposter. You know imposter? Well, he is not a real fellow but poses as one. In the olden days, there used to be these weddings which went on for a number of days in the villages. And so the groom's party would come and, they would be received by the bride's party and treated well because, you must keep them happy for a whole week. So this fellow had a good time. May I have a cup of tea? May I have a Coca-Cola? May I have ice cream? So this young man, he also dressed himself up as one of these, marriage attendees. He goes to the bride's camp and says, "Can I have ice cream? Can I have this? Can you get a new shirt? Can you get this?" Those fellows thought that this fellow is coming from the groom side. So they treated him. This fellow would go here and make similar demand. They thought he's coming from the bride side. They didn't know who this fellow is. He took advantage for so many days and people were fed up with him, both sides. Then the father of the bride and father of the groom, they met each other. Bride's father said, "Is this coming from you, this fellow?" So, no. I thought he was coming from you. Ultimately discovered that. So this chap is looking. And he found out that these two persons now have met each other and they are inquiring into who this fellow is. He disappears right away. Our Swami said, "Vicharam na sahate." Mithya, the one that is false cannot tolerate the inquiry, cannot tolerate investigation, if the false will disappear. So when this is called imposter, who posed as something, and that imposter persists as long as one does not inquire into what the real nature is. And moment you start inquiring, where does it come from? Comes from you? No. From you? No. The imposter knows that now I am exposed or going to be exposed, he disappears. Ahankara is like that. Ahankara is an imposter, poses as Atma. The I thought is actually I notion, but the Ahankara, the ego, poses as though he is Atma, so we take him as Atma. So who am I? I am a speaker. Who are you? I am a listener. This is what we believe we are. We are taken for granted. I am a son, I am daughter, I am father, I am mother, I am speaker, I am hearer. This story is told by the Upanishad. Saisha iha pravishtaha anakhagrebhyah. The Brihadaranyaka Upanishad tells us a story. There are stories in the Upanishads also. Saisha iha pravishtaha anakhagrebhyah. Ishvara, having created this world and created this upadhi also. The other is asking, Sarvani rupani vichitya dhiraha namani kritva abhivadan yadaste. Where does it come from? Sarvani rupani vichitya dhiraha namani kritva abhivadan yadaste. Where does it come from? Purusha Sukha. Sarvani rupani vichitya dhiraha. The omniscient Lord, having created all the forms, gave it the names. So Upanishad also says, having created this form, he entered, having created the costume, he entered the costume. Like an actor, first the costume, beggar is the costume, he enters the costume, is it not? Which is fine, nothing wrong in it. What is the problem? Having entered the costume. These people dress up in the room inside, and before coming to stage, they say there is a big mirror in which he looks, I'm all right. And who does he see? He sees a beggar. What does he say? I'm a beggar? Suppose for some reason that happens. It can happen. Because intoxicated fellow also sometimes, and it's likely that I'm a beggar. It's called identification. It is likely that the actor identifies with this costume and then entertains notion, I am a beggar. Next he puts on costume, a king, I am a king. Minister, I am a minister. Hero, I am hero. I am a villain. I am criminal. I am a policeman. He puts on variety of costumes and his notions keep on changing. What is the origin? This is called ahankara, aham vritti. I am a beggar, I am a king, I am a minister. Where does it arise from? What is the source of this notion, I am a beggar? So we want to know what is this beggar, where has he come from? Yes. What is the source of this notion, I am the beggar? The identification with the costume. Costume is costume. Actor is actor. A new entity, there are two entities. A third entity is created. What's the entity? I am the beggar. Is it not so? Is it not a new entity, a created entity? The beggar costume is there. I, the actor, is there. Now, I am the beggar. A new entity is created. That is called the I beggar notion. One who entertains notion. One non-beggar entertaining notion of beggar. It's called notion. Who says I am a beggar? He is a millionaire, he is a billionaire. What does he say? I am a beggar? So we ask him, where does this beggar arises from? The notion of beggar, it arises from identification with the costume. So Bhagavan also created these costumes. How many? 8.4 million kinds of species, or many more maybe. In every species again there are countless entities, members. Human beings are the most minority, only 7 billion. Many more mosquitoes may be there, and ants, and so trillions and trillions of entities are there. They are all costumes. Sarvani, Rupani, Vichitya Dhiraha. Dhiraha, the wise and omniscient one, created all these Rupani, all these costumes. Then assumes a name. Devadattoham, Vishnumitroham, Purushoham, Striyaham, Pitaham, Mataham. I am father, I am mother, I am man, I am woman. Where does it come from? That I, identifying with the costume, creates this notion. Where does father belong? Belongs to the body. The father, mother, tall, short, all of these belong to the body. But this one says, the actor says, I am father, I am mother. Like the actor saying, I am a beggar. So what is ahankara? Aham vritti, I thought, I notion, I am father. I am grandfather. Thank you. Congratulations. Swami, I am grandmother, Swamiji. Congratulations. Enjoy that. But see, different kinds of I notions keep on arising depending upon the identifications. So many children are born, they don't make me grandfather. This particular child is born, I am grandfather. God bless you. But what I am saying is how the notions arise. This is called identification. Similar to the actor proclaiming, I am a beggar, so also I proclaim, I am a man, a woman. It's called ahankara. It's called the I thought. It is called the I notion. It is called jivatma. It is called chidabhasa, whatever name you want to give. So what's the origin of this I notion? Identification. Who identifies with what? Atma identifies with Anatma. Call it Brahman, call it Paramatma. He created these costumes, they are different. He enters and now identifies with that. Upanishad says, Prananneva prana bhavati vadan vak pashyan chakshuhu shrunvan shrotram manvano manaha. When he is breathing, he says, I am a breather. He is seeing, he says, I am a seer. Hearing, he says, I am a hearer. Thinking, I am a thinker. Who says? I say. Everybody says. But there is true, Swami. Is it not so? Are you not a speaker? Am I not a listener? Depends on who you think you are. There is listening, all right. Where does listening take place? At what level does the listening take place? Listening takes place at the organ of hearing. Who are you? You are the witness of the act of listening. If you pay attention, you are aware that yes, this is sound, these are words, this is the cognition taking place. And if you pay attention, you realize that really you are a witness of the process of listening. We don't pay attention, we become listener. So where does the listener arise from? By Atma, the self, identifying with the organ of listening, arises a listener. Where does the thinker arise from? The self, identifying with the organ of thinking, a new entity, thinker. So what is I thought? What is ego? Aham vritti. speaker, thinker, hearer, listener, doer, enjoyer, experiencer, happy, unhappy, mother, father. It keeps on changing its notions or form depending upon what he identifies with. His identification keeps on changing, and therefore new notions keep on arising. You follow? When child is born, I'm a grandmother. So identification, new identification with new aspect of myself. I'm father, I'm mother. Nothing right or wrong, we just trying to understand. Ahamayam kuto bhavati, where does this aham arise from? It is a result of the identification of Atma or self or consciousness with Anatma, non-self or the costume. One thing is true, I don't identify with the table, do I? Thank God. Then there will be bigger problems. This fellow, you know this story. It happened to this fellow. He thought it was a cat for some reason. Identified himself the cat. I'm a cat. Now when he's a cat, then he's afraid of dogs. He would not go out of his home. And always scared of dogs. So then his family members took him to a therapist. Said, this fellow thinks he's a dog, a cat. So therapist brings a big mirror, asks this patient to look, who do you see inside? I see myself. Do you see a cat or a man? I see a man. Are you a cat or you're a man? I'm a man. Convinced. You're not a cat, isn't it? No, I'm not. So happily he went home. His family took him back. After 3 days, the phone came. Says, doctor, this fellow doesn't go out of the home. Says, why? He's afraid. But did he not realize that he's not a cat, he's a human being? He says, yeah. Then what's the problem? He says, I know I'm not a cat, but how do the dogs know that I'm not the cat? Any kind of a notion, but fortunately that is not happening to us. Otherwise there would be a riot here, Somebody thinks I'm a dog, somebody says I'm a cat, somebody says I'm a chair, somebody says I'm a table, and you start sitting on this chair, I don't know what you'll do. Fortunately, our identification is confined to this body. Idam shariram kaunteya kshetram iti abhidhiyate. Therefore, the teacher does not tell me, you are not this column, you are not that speaker, you are not this microphone, you are not this. They don't have to tell me, otherwise this Upadesha would never end. Yes, I realize I am not table, but I am chair, you are not chair. Then, fortunately, the identification takes place with the costume. The costume consisting of body, sense organs, mind, intellect. Keeps on shifting, sometimes the body, fat, lean, tall, short, fair, dark. Sometimes the sense organs, blind, lame, etc. Sometimes the mind, happy, unhappy, with the intellect, doctor, engineer, successful. So this fellow keeps on changing identifications, constantly changing entity. Therefore he cannot be real. But where the unreal is, real must be there. This is another rule. Where mithya is, satyam must be there, because since mithya does not enjoy independent reality, therefore it must have an independent satyam as a basis. Therefore, if you properly look at the mithya, then satyam will be revealed to you. So looking at ahankara, ahamayam kuto bhavati, chinvatah, thinking, deliberating like this. So I am repeating what Upanishad says. Understand that this is not an independent stuff going on here. I am not performing independent inquiry myself. I am just following the method of my teacher, who follows the method of his teacher, who follows the method of Upanishad. Meaning that this is inquiry or deliberation. You don't carry out in your armchair. Where does it? That will lead nowhere. You know why? Who is performing inquiry? Ahankara itself asking, where does the aham come from? And therefore he will never destroy himself. He will persist. He will perpetuate himself. Therefore, someone other than ahankara should in fact perform the investigation. But Swamiji, when teacher is teaching you, you are doing that. Yes, but I am not that ahankara. So this is the beauty or the uniqueness of the teaching tradition. So our Swamiji used to look at the Kurukshetra, where the teaching of Bhagavad Gita took place. There is a chariot. Who is the charioteer? Who is the driver? Lord Krishna. Who is the master? Arjuna. Comes from Kathopanishad. Atmana vrathanam vidhi sharirana vrathamevatu buddhim tu saratham vidhi manah pragrahamevacha indriyani hayan ahuhu vishayagam steshu gocharam atmendriya manoyuktam bhokte tyahur manishinaha. This body is comparable to a chariot. Organs of perception are comparable to horses because horses draw the chariot, the organs of perception draw this body. Look something good, the body is drawn there. Who is the charioteer? Intellect is the driver of the charioteer, and the mind is the rein, Rashana, rein, with which he controls the horses. And who is the ego? He is the master. This whole chariot is made for this Jivatma. For what? For performing this vichara so that to understand the true nature of the self. I assume that I am so and so, but what is my true nature? So in Bhagavad Gita, the same thing is shown there. A chariot, a driver, a master, horses. So if you look at that picture of Bhagavad Gita, Lord Krishna he restrains all the horses by the reins in his left hand and is turned towards Arjuna. He turns because he is sitting at the back. Turns toward Arjuna and teaches by Jnana Krishnaya Gita Amrita Duhe Namaha. So Namaha, my salutation to Gita Amrita Duhe, one who extracts the milk, ambrosia of the Gita, by Jnana Mudra. Prapanna Parijataya, Totra Vetraika Panaya, Jnana Mudraya Krishnaya, Gita Amrita Duhe Namaha. So this is how Lord Krishna teaches Arjuna. One hand, the horse under control, other hand, teaching. Then the teacher looks at the student. That means there is a connection between the two. It is not just physical connection. A connection must be established between the teacher and the student so that the student does not remain an independent entity, but the student or disciple identifies with the teacher. What makes him identify? The Shraddha and the Bhakti. If the disciple has Bhakti, devotion for the teacher, or love for the teacher, Shraddha, a trust in the teacher. This is my well-wisher. He wishes well of me. He knows what he is talking about. And what he is talking about does not come from his brain, comes from the scriptures. This much about the teacher. This much trust the student has. Then alone you can hand over the reins of your chariot to the driver, otherwise you cannot and you should not. So Shraddha, Bhakti is there. That creates the connection between the teacher and the disciple. That opens like a channel for the knowledge to flow from the teacher to the student. Otherwise, it just becomes a lecture. And how many professor did not attend, came this and that? We are paying $38 for lecture. How come he can skip that lecture? So, the students have a different mindset. But a learning person should have this mindset. Then the disciple no more has his identity in terms of his ahankara, which is thus handed over to the teacher. Who drives now? Who is the driver? Lord Krishna. And the teacher unfolds what the Upanishads teach, and same unfoldment goes on in the mind of the disciple. He is sitting there, but not just sitting there. Looks like that the listener doesn't do anything, he does. This is like dynamic listening, meaning that as the unfoldment takes place on the part of the teacher, same process goes on in the mind of the disciple. Then only knowledge can occur. It is not the teacher says something and I am just sitting there and watching him, and nothing happens. Something may happen, you may get some punya. Punya is there. Listen to scriptures, it certainly generates punya and may help. But when does understanding take place? When a similar process of deliberation goes on in the mind of the student, then the understanding takes place. So now, it is not ahankara who is performing his deliberation, the teacher is performing the deliberation, and because of the identification of the teacher, the student by default performs the deliberation. So it's not ahankara who is making inquiry. Who is ahankara? It is the teacher, the scriptures making inquiry. What is the nature of ahankara? Meaning that you create distance with your own ahankara. To make an inquiry or understand something, you must create a distance. It's called objectivity. To understand a specimen, the scientist must be objective, and a distance is created, subject-object. Similarly also, to understand ahankara, we should be able to create a distance with ahankara. How? By identifying with the Guru. So now I am looking at ahankara from the standpoint of Guru. I become objective by my own notions. And the Guru says, Neti, Neti, Neti. I say to my teacher, I am a disciple, you are not. I am father, you are not. I am happy, you are not. न मे मृत्यु शंका न मे जाति भेद पिता नैव मे नैव माता न जन्म न बंधुर न मित्रम गुरुर नैव. All the ideas are negated. That's called neti neti. Naturally in our mind, the ahankara comes up with variety of notions, and each one is said, no, that is not you, that is not you, that is not you. Now, when I say I am father, there are two aspects involved in that statement. One is I am, other is father. Then I say I am grandfather. There, I am grandfather. I am granddaughter. I am granddaughter, grandson, whatever. So whereas the I notions keep on changing as a doer, enjoyer, happy, and one thing remains the same. What? I am, I am, I am. Just make a note. I am happy. I am and happy. I am not happy. I am and not happy. So now we are lumping together I am with other things. This happy belongs where? To the mind. Unhappy belongs where? To the mind. Daughter belongs where? To the body. So what is ahankara? Lumping together or identification of the I with non-I, the self with non-self, which is evident when we claim, I am a speaker. That I am and speaker. Speaker belongs to the organ of speech, the anatma, the costume, the non-self, with which I am lumping, I am the self. So when they say, no, speaker, you are not speaker, that doesn't mean you are not. Speaker, you are not, you are. Speaker is what? Is superimposition. Like actors, I am a beggar. The beggar is the superimposition arising from identifying with the costume. So I keep on identifying the upadhi, come with new notions, each notion is denied. Until every notion is denied. Neti neti. Then what will remain? Will something remain? The father is denied, son is denied, grandfather is denied, happy is denied, unhappy is denied, tall is denied, doctor is denied, lawyer is denied. All that. Will anything remain after all this denial? Will anything remain after all these denials? That's a very serious answer, a simpler answer. I am. Says, you are not father. Father you are not. Doesn't say you are not. Father you are not. Because father is a notion arising from identifying with what you are not. And so, all these notions arising from identification, when they are negated, what remains? I am. We can't be negated. You cannot say I am not. Can you say that? Ask somebody to meditate. Meditate. Swami, what should I meditate? I am not. You take him for a ride forever, Because I am means being. Being is my nature. And I am. How do you know that are you there? Yes. How do you know you are there? I know I am there. How do you know? In a pitch dark also, when you knock the door, who are you? I am so and so. Are you there? Yes, I am there. How do you know that you are there? How do you know? Are you there right now? Yes, how do you know? I know I am. How? Because I am is self-revealing. I am is self-effulgent. That's all consciousness. Therefore, no effort is required to know that I am. For father, effort is required. Where are you? Let me see, let me look around. How are you? Let me think. Are you? No thinking. I am is self-revealing, self-effulgent reality. There is none in all the changes, father, mother, son, in all changes. What does not change? I am. We said that a changeless basis must be there for all changes to be noted. What's the basis? I am. How do you know I am? I know. How? Because I am is self-effulgent. So asti is already bhati. You always love a please priyam. Ahamayam koto bhavati chinvataha. Thus when we inquire what is the source or what is the true nature of aham or ahankara or aham vritti, in that what is changing, false costume is negated. Because you on the stage you see only a beggar, you see a king, you see a minister, you see all sorts of fellows. When do you know him properly? When all the costumes are removed. So negated. Then I realized, I am. Then even when you put on a costume, no problem. Once you recognize I am, even costumes don't matter. So this is how but it is through the teaching that I realize, I see the truth about myself. If I myself start, we can never arrive at this. People have started themselves, arrived at all kinds of philosophies. There are so many schools of thought in the world. All of those things are result of themselves arriving at the truth. So somebody says it's all shunyam, kshanikam. The Buddhas say, what is Atma? Flickering consciousness, momentary consciousnness. So no, it is shunyam, void. What is Atma? It is a substance having consciousness, all kinds of ideas are there. Because ahankara is performing inquiry. Therefore, our Puja Swami would say that, look, this is all investigation done with reference to pramanam. The Upanishad is pramanam. And the teacher becomes pramanam because he is identified with Upanishad. Upanishad is pramanam because Upanishad is identified with Brahman. And teacher becomes pramanam because teacher is identified with Upanishad. So ultimately God is teaching us through revealing scriptures, through the sages, through their words of teaching. So we have not arrived at this ourselves. This is the speculation. Like Upanishad speculating. There is no speculation. No inquiry. I say this is orange color. I mean, it's not a result of inquiry. The eyes reveal that this is orange color. So Upanishad reveal that you are Brahman, Tattvamasi. Ai patatya, the second line says, Ai patati. Ai, hey, The teacher says, hey, my dear. This is very common in Upanishad also. Sadaiva Somya, idamagrahasya, hey Somya, oh pleasant, oh good looking one, means oh pleasant one. Good looking is a different thing, pleasant one. Soma means moon. Soma means son of moon. Moon is very pleasant. Somya means pleasant. So teacher addresses, the guru addresses disciple as hey Somya, oh pleasing one. To us that fellow doesn't look pleasing, but to teacher it looks pleasing. Not because of his skin color, not because of other things, because of what is in there in the mind. Tad viddhi pranipatena pariprashnena sevaya upadekshantite jnanam jnaninas tattvadarshina, says Lord Krishna. Here Arjuna, know the process by which you can gain this knowledge. When will you gain the knowledge? Upadekshantite jnanam jnaninas tattvadarshina. When jnanina, tattvadarshina, the wise and the learned teachers, when they teach you. When will they teach you? You go and stand there, teaching may not take place. Not in those days. Here we are inviting everybody. Please come, please listen to us. Things have changed. In those days that was not the case. That you have to go to the teacher. Not only that, but there is no rule that just because you go there and I want to learn, that does not mean that the teacher will necessarily teach you. He will test you. Our teachers are too kind, Oh, aa jaiye, come, no problem. Then we create all kinds of problems for the teachers. Anyway, this is his prarabdha. Being too much daya. Anyway, but tadviddhi pranipatena pariprashnena sevaya. Here Arjuna, may you approach these teachers, wise and learned. Pranipada, first a long prostration. That shows that my head is at the feet of the teacher, at the level of the feet of the teacher. I am only that much at your feet. That is my status. Meaning that I am nothing before you. I totally surrender to you. I accept you. That shows Shraddha. Trust that I am in a safe place. I am not going to be exploited. That here I am with a well-wisher. Shraddha. Sevaya. You must serve the teacher. These days, of course, there are, the setups are all different. So now you say, so when can I serve the teacher? Please don't do that. There are enough number of people. So sometimes too much service also is more problem than solution anyway. But otherwise, serve the teacher. That serving creates, an acquaintance to begin with. And an intimacy also, a bond of affection, bond of love, devotion, shraddha. Then you really recognize the dimension of the teacher when you observe him. Then when the teacher thinks that you are ready, prasannam tamanuprapya, says Viveka Chudamani, we will serve this teacher with shraddha and bhakti, prahva prashraya sevanaihi, samaradya gurum bhaktya. So, thus serving teacher at the level of body, speech, mind. When he's pleased with you, you watch, is he pleased with me or not? What do you mean, Swami? You have to butter them for them to be pleased with you? Teachers are also like that? No. They are always pleased. But there is a special kind of pleasure. When Yajnavalkya declared to Maitreyi that, hey Maitreyi, I am now going to leave the home because I want to become a renunciate, and Maitreyi, don't worry, I have left enough wealth between you and Katyayani, and so Maitreyi says, sir, if I get the whole earth full of all the riches, whole earth, will I become immortal? Yajnavalkya says, I'm sorry. You cannot become immortal. You can have a comfortable life. Happiness, immortality you cannot get. Maitreyi, what's the use of this wealth if it doesn't give immortality? Give me that. Please tell me that which you know, which is the means of immortality. So she became a jignasu, became a disciple. Says Yajnavalkya, mind, oh, you have always been dear to me, Maitreyi, but today you are especially dear to me. As wife, he loved her. But today she is a jignasu, a special love is there. Guru is specially pleased to find a jignasu. They are pleased because that's their nature. But that kind of pleasure when you generate in your teacher, then you know now. Then you ask the question. Anyway, this is all the formality. What I am saying is that a certain setup must be there at the mental, emotional, intellectual level. Then the communication becomes effective. But the idea is that when the question is asked here, ahamayam kuto bhavati chinvataha, for the one who is inquiring or deliberating upon this question, where does aham arise from? What is the truth of aham? Because aham is not truth, because it's changing, it's there now. In fact, aham is not even there in deep sleep state. It's now there, not then, changing. It can't be truth. What is the truth? What's the abiding aspect of aham? When the costume is there, the wearer also is there. When changing is there, changeless also is there. Mithya is there, Satyam also is there. So I am a doctor, I am an engineer, I am always there. That's the upon which all superimposition are taking place. Aipatatyaham, that ahankara, the false notions drop off in the wake of the understanding, the true knowledge of what my nature is. Nija vicharanam, this is called the Nija vicharanam, self-inquiry, or vicharanam, deliberation upon the self. That is the Upanishad. This is the primary subject matter or primary activity, primary purpose of Upanishads. Alright, we will break here, take break here. And 19 verses are complete. We still have 11 verses to go. So in next retreat, what else can we do? We have to complete this text. Well, we already booked this retreat center for next year. So next year also we'll continue with the same text. As usual, we always go back and review what we did and then continue with it. And you see, these people have done, and I'm most amazed that the job that they have done is they have transcribed and summarized the teaching that took place in last retreat, and that books are all given. Now already Krishnanda declared, announced, he has invited volunteers to transcribe these talks. I presume they will come up with something like that next year. The point is that it's a good idea to study before coming here. Study what has gone by. You can study what is going to come. As well prepared as you are, that shows the seriousness, and that also makes us more available for understanding and grasping. Then your time is well utilized. After you come here, and it's time, energy, whatever else. So it should be best utilized. And best utilized if you are as well prepared as you are, and the material is given. And I think you send them as PDF even before printing. These days are all different. We didn't have that. I didn't know what PDF was. What about Nachiketa? He didn't have anything. When we were in this ashram, Sandipani, our Swamiji did not allow recording of the talks. So orthodox, conservative. He says, if you record, then you won't pay attention in the class. I'll listen to the recording. Subsequently, now of course everything is allowed, but this is how it was. So anyway, best use our time, as much interest as we can take in this the whole year, and all related things also we can study Vedanta. This is Saram, this essence of. So it is naturally difficult. It's not easy. You can see that we are drawing from so many sources because this is all represented here. So on one hand, you have the benefit of listening to or studying the essence of the whole scriptures. On the other hand, that then calls for a certain preparation to benefit from that. So anyway, let us see how things are. Nobody knows what next year is. This is all with prayer to Ishvara. But right now we are concluding here with the verse 19, with the hope of continuing in future. Om Purnamadah Purnamidam Purnat Purnamudachyate Purnasya Purnamadaya Purnameva Vasishyate. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Shankaram Shankaracharyam Keshavam Badarayanam Sutra Bhashya Krutau Vande Bhagavantau Punah Punah Ishvaro Gururatmeti Murti Bheda Vibhagine Vyomavad Vyapta Dehaya Murtaye Namaha. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Hari Om. Shri Gurubhyo Namaha. Hari Om. So before we close, if you want, we can chant the 19 verses that we have done. I can recite one line. You can repeat after me. So that way, if you decide to study, you will also have this chanting of This one doesn't allow me to move anyway. All right. So let us start. Karturajñaya prapyate phalam. Karma kim param karma tajjadam. Kruti maho dadhau patana karanam. Phalam shashvatam gati nirodhakam. Ishvararpitam nechaya kritam. Chitta shodhakam mukti sadhakam. Kaya vangmana karyamuttamam. Pujanam japas chintanam kramad. Jagata ishadhi yukta sevanam. Ashtamurtibhra deva pujanam. Uttamastavaducchamandatah. Chittajam japa dhyanamuttamam. Ajyadharaya srotasa samam. Sarala chintanam viralatah param. Bheda bhavanat sohamityasau. Bhavana bhida pavani mata. Bhava shunya sad bhava susthiti. Bhavana balad bhaktiruttama. Kristhale mana swasthata kriya. Bhakti yoga bodhascha nischitam. Vayurodhana liyate manah. Manah jala pakshiva drodha sadhanam. Chitta vayavas chitkriya yutaha shakhayordvayi shakti mulaka. Laya vinashane ubhayrodhane. Laya gatam punar bhavati nomrutam. Pranabandhana lina manasam. Eka chintana nashametyadaha. Shametyadaha nashtamanasot krishta yogina. Yogina कृत्यमस्ति किं स्वस्थितिं यतः दृश्यवारितं चित्तमात्मनः चित्वदर्शनं तत्वदर्शनं मानसं तु किं मार्गणे कृते नैव मानसं मार्ग आर्जवात् वृत्तयस्त्वहं वृत्तिमाश्रिताः वृत्तयो मनो विद्यहं मनः मनः अहमयं कुतो भवति चिन्वतः चिन्वतः अयि पतत्यहं निजविचारणम् अहमिनाशभाज्यहमहन्तया स्फुरतिरुत्स्वयं परमपूर्णसत् इदमहं पदाभिख्यमन्वहम् अहमिलीनकेऽप्यलयसत्तया विग्रहेन्द्रियप्राणधीतमः नाहमेकसत्तज्जडं ह्यसत् जडं ह्यसत् सत्त्वभाविका चित्क्ववेतरा सत्तया हि चेच्चित्तया ह्यहम् ईशजीवयोर्वेषधीभिदा सत्स्वभावतो वस्तु केवलम् वेषहानतः स्वात्मदर्शनम् ईशदर्शनं स्वात्मरूपतः स्वात्मरूपतः आत्मसंस्थिते स्वात्मदर्शनम् आत्मनिर्द्वयादात्मनिष्ठता ज्ञानवर्जिता ज्ञानहीनचेत ज्ञानमस्ति किं ज्ञातुमन्तरम् किं स्वरूपमेत्यात्मदर्शने अव्यया भवा पूर्णचित्सुखम् बन्धमुक्त्यतीतं परं सुखम् विन्दतीह जीवस्तु दैविकः दैविकः अहमपेतकं निजविभानकम् महदिदन्तपो रमणवागियम् महदिदन्तपो रमणवागियम् ॐ Now the Guru Dakshina, I think I'll be sitting here and one by one, please come along in the line.